Well. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and shibbity-bop. This is Spot of Nerd, and I've just realized this is actually the first brand new episode from yours truly, Spot of Nerd, in 2023. And we're already almost done with January, if you can believe that. And, quite frankly, there is too much to talk about. There really is. From the politics to the nerdisms to personal, everything in between. So I will do my best to touch on, I guess, some of the points that I can think of at this moment, but trust me, there's lots of stuff we will get back to. There's lots of stuff that we will continue the conversation at a later date through another episode, etc. The first thing I want to get off my chest, and you might not have a clue what I'm talking about or who I'm talking about, but very unfortunate. There is currently quite the, I guess the only word I could really use would be there's quite the escalation going on right now between one of the greatest conservative voices on the planet, Mr. Steven Crowder, who is an incredible idol, somebody that I admire, and the man has genuinely, I swear to you, I'm not exaggerating. This man has literally saved my life. If you listen to me, Spot of Nerd, I'm a right wing, I'm a conservative, I'm very old school, traditional. I still believe in freedom, and I actually think America is truly one of the greatest countries on the planet. So, Louder with Crowder is the show, and cut an extremely, extremely long story short, there's been quite an ordeal between him and the Daily Wire. Now, if you're not familiar with the Daily Wire, they are another so-called conservative group that hosts multitude of personalities. And right now, long story short, Crowder is looking to essentially break away on his own, whether he wants to produce and start his own business or whatever that might look like. I'll be honest with you, there's so many details, there's so many things that even I don't understand. But what it comes down to is Crowder, in my view, essentially has called out the Daily Wire for basically being no different than all the other bullshit companies that pretend to be what they're not. And what I mean by that is they provided Crowder a contract that was, in my view, a joke, it was insulting. They know who he is. They know, the Daily Wire knows who Steven Crowder is, and to offer him what they did is disgusting. And it's not as Steven says, he's posted a few videos. It is not about the money. It really, if it was about the money, this would not be happening. What it comes down to is the principle of conservatism. Whether or not we really are going to take this fight and whether or not we're going to succeed. But what it really does come down to is if you have people like me who think differently, who think more on the conservative side of things, that wish to have more freedom, what we are worried about and what we are fighting for is to retain those freedoms and to retain the rights that we actually are born from day one, the moment you pop out of your mom. What I'm going on about is specifically with this Crowder and Daily Wire situation. You know, do I think Steven handled it the way he should have? I would say 90-10. 90% yeah, yes, 10% no. There's definitely some emotions behind it, but I really do think he has called out the Daily Wire for, you know, it's something that even conservatives nowadays, we couldn't necessarily put our finger on it, specifically with the Daily Wire, because, you know, they've got a lot of great people, and I'm not disrespecting any of them, but it's always filled with ads. It's always filled with just robotic, I guess, features, if that makes any sense. Where with Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder, the show, the dude is not afraid to tell the truth, even if it means getting him removed from these tech platforms, YouTube, Google, Apple, blah 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 blah. And that is what we're trying to fight for, is the fact of we also have a voice. I've said this from ever since I've kind of shared more about my real true feelings of being who I am. you know the loudest voices seem to be the ones that get the biggest picture, they get the biggest attention. And the moment the other side speaks out, we're targeted, we are discriminated against, we're called bigots and racists and everything in between. And we talk so much about inclusion and diversity in the world today, but we actually, in my viewpoint, do the complete opposite. If you know me, do you really think I'm a racist? Do you really think I'm a bigot? Do you really think I'm discriminating against you? I mean, I've said this again, broken record before in other videos and other podcasts. I mean, honestly, for those of you who do know me, you have got to be smoking crack if you think any of that is true. But, as I've said, I've been called it daily. I'm called it hourly sometimes, depending on the workday. Colleagues, everything in between. Now, obviously, it's not necessarily directed towards me, it's indirectly towards me. But what happened to everybody is welcome? What happened to you can have your opinion, I can have mine? No, if you fall out of line, you are now officially the bad guy. So that is why the other 90 support with Steven Crowder right now, is because he's fighting this battle almost alone. The man has an influence like no other. If you look even back from the 2016 presidential elections to just recently with the midterm elections, Steven Crowder, Louder with Crowder, has brought more attention, more viewership than all news and other social media platforms combined. And that's even after being removed from YouTube. That's being removed from other platforms. That's being censored left and right. He still brings in more viewership than all the news and other social media resources combined. The man is a legend. Do I have some bias towards it? Sure, maybe I do. But the bottom line is, I really do like it's hard to kind of, switching gears a little bit. It's hard to see fellow conservatives and right-wing folks fighting with each other. It's almost like we're giving into what the higher elites and media corporations want. They want us fighting. They do not want us together. They don't want us to fight as a whole. And of course, when I say fight, anytime I mention it, I'm of course metaphorically speaking, not literally. I would wish no violence on anyone or anything. So when I say fight, again, just so we're clear, it is metaphorically spoken, just for that purpose. And totally off topic, the fact that I literally have to say stuff like that genuinely should speak for itself on really what we are facing in today's world. You're not allowed to compliment people anymore. You're not allowed to even just so much as acknowledge people anymore without fear of repercussions. Switching into other gears, I was even talking um, just to some colleagues through work and stuff like that, and the topic came up of, does the traditional man and does the traditional woman still exist today? And I said no. I really, I don't mean that in a derogatory, negative way. I in a disrespectful way. I mean that as you are not allowed technically to be those traditional people where a man would ask a woman out on a date. A man would open the door for his date, where the woman would maybe be at home taking care of the children, etc., so on and so forth. You're not allowed to say that anymore. And it's really disheartening, because again, I am a very traditional person where I obviously respect you do you, I'll do me. You have your own way, I have my way. But the saddest truth of today is because I feel the way I do that, you know, technically I believe, yes, a man should lead. Um, in other aspects of even just asking for a dance or maybe just giving a compliment to his partner or to just maybe somebody on the street that you just, you know what, maybe you want to make somebody's day and give them some happiness. But we're not allowed to do that anymore. So the traditional, I don't know what the right word is, but I think you know where I'm going with this. It just doesn't exist. And is it gone completely? No, because there are people like me. And I will take huge pride in the fact that I am still the traditional man. I still believe, when it comes to relationships that, yes, I want a partner that I can defend and take care of and support, but I also want it in return, so it is that kind of equal balance. But at the same time, I don't want to have to be afraid that if I want to meet somebody new or if I want to say hello to somebody perhaps on the street, give a compliment to, I don't want to have that fear of, I wonder if somebody's going to slap, I don't know, some sort of charge on me because of XYZ, if you get my drift. So, um, it's been kind of disheartening, I guess, again, is the word to use these last couple weeks. And it's why I've been a little bit quiet and hopefully I'll get back into things because, switching to the next topic I want to talk about is, my own mental state, depression and things like that. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Late December, Christmas time to these last few weeks, I definitely have dipped back into a very bad depressive episode, and I've talked about this before. I've talked about this on this YouTube channel, on this podcast. I'm not afraid to talk about suicide. I'm not afraid to talk about major depression. It does exist and it will debilitate you. It absolutely will destroy you and it takes time to get out of it. But the good news is that finally, as I've mentioned before, that yes, I am having these episodes, but I'm actually able now to get myself out. Whereas before, sure, I might go into these episodes and I might come out of them, but I was still lingering there. I actually can now come out of these episodes and actually feel better. You can actually record that in your history books that for the first time, I can tell you, coming out of a depressive episode, I actually feel better because I've had the time to basically sit back, acknowledge what it is, figure out what's causing it, and then realize, hey, yeah, you know what? This does suck right now, but we can go on. We can move on from this. And I've started learning these amazing techniques about changing the mental state. I know it sounds probably cliche to some of you, but you really do. I hope maybe if somebody's listening out there that maybe is in a similar boat, I hope you take this as maybe something that you can use, but is as hard and as deep of a hole as you're in right now. If you can just think of one thing to just something to look forward to. Like I'll give you my example. I'm just kind of thinking of a couple really, but as much as I might hate every second of the day, there's that moment where I'm able to get into my new truck that just, I'm like, yes, as soon as this is all over, as soon as all the bad shit is done, I'm going to get to go in my new truck and I'm going to get to drive that truck. So it changes you, it makes it better. The other factor, of course, too, being, I'm starting to plan for Comic-Con coming up in the summertime. I'm going to be heading to Florida here soon and Tennessee because I'm going to start exploring these other places. So, yes, was Christmas hard? Absolutely. Was the rebound terrible? Yeah, absolutely. But I'm out of it now. And I can say I'm out of it. And now I'm trying to move to the next step, whatever that might be. But the next step being something that's actually something positive. So, yes, mark it in your history books that Spot of Nerd has told you something positive. It's crazy, I know, but hey, it happens sometimes. So, anyway, we'll kind of wrap some things up here on the nerd side of things. Some of the stuff I finished recently. I've talked about this before. Willow finished up its first season. Apparently, there's going to be 3 seasons. Dear God, I don't even know where to begin on Willow, but the bottom line is do not waste your time at all. Surprisingly, which was really good, if you have HBO Max, The Last of Us, which is, of course, based off of the video game, really great show. It's kind of your typical zombie apocalypse, but very, very well done. Pedro Pascal, I think his name, the guy who plays the Mandalorian, he is the main cast member in it, but awesome show. Really, really, really awesome show. My only gripe being it does feel a little bit CW-ish. Not necessarily a bad thing, but hopefully things do maybe kind of change in the future for that aspect. Other things I've kind of finished up. Jack Ryan season 3. Not the best season, still an amazing show if you like the Secret Service type shows where the end of the world, and Jack Ryan, of course, is played by Jim from The Office, so you can't go wrong there. Really well done, but it was just a little bit slow this season. I'm not gonna lie. It was definitely a little more of a drier season. So hopefully they've said they've signed up for a season 4. Hopefully that gets a little bit more action. It doesn't always need to be action, but it does help, especially on a show that is a lot of talking and a lot of CIA type talking, if you get my drift. Um, Speaking of another phenomenal show that just started up its second season as well, The Mayor of Kingstown, which is on Paramount Plus, I swear to you, is probably one of the top 10 greatest shows I have ever watched in my entire life. Hands down. It is a show with Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner, and he is kind of the middleman between the police and prison. And the show is based around him just trying to keep the peace between violence in the streets, violence in the prisons, and the peace between basically the police and the prison, the inmates. So very graphic, very dark, but incredible writing, incredible story. If you are looking for a new show to start, that is something I would definitely go towards because just damn, some of the way they do this, just the way they write this show and produce it, it's just I can't even describe it. Clearly, I can't give you words on just how amazing it is. So check that out for sure too. I'm actually looking forward to. There was an English show, an English series called Bad Education. It's a comedy show. My mind was blown. They've just released a season 4. I'm gonna try and see if I can find that somewhere online. But if you want just something amazingly hilarious, if you were ever a fan of the In-Betweeners, you might know that show way back in the day from again, it's more of a British series, but just hilarious, great fun. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But there's some other stuff we will talk about another time because I'm gonna finish this episode up. Looking forward to we've got Jeremy's Clarkson's Farm season 2 coming up, and 2 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll have the Ant-Man uh, movie coming out. That I'll probably check out in theaters, so I'll give you guys a full review when that does eventually come out. Hopefully, which again, Marvel is dead. I'm not having any expectations at all, but it looks decent. It's got Bill Murray. You can't go wrong with Bill Murray, and we'll just kind of see what it is, and no expectations whatsoever. But anyway, y'all, thank you so much for watching, listening, everything in between with Spot of Nerd. Obviously, the usuals, the subscribe if you can, the follow if you can, the likes if you can, the comments if you can, everything in between, listening to us on the podcast, sharing it with your friends and family. Super duper in the pooper. Appreciate it. And we will see and talk to you guys next time. Later, y'all.